Welcome to Open Pike Night, the Strange New Worlds podcast where your calls are the prime directive. I'm your host, John T. Bolds, here tonight with an exciting new segment on the Open Pike Night lineup, Strange New Words. Your host will be speaking with some of the writers of Strange New Worlds Season 3. And I know what you're thinking, loyal Open Pike Night listener. You're thinking, hey, you guys have already interviewed writers. That's true, but Strange New Words episodes will be released, when possible, the same day that the Strange New Worlds episode written by our guest drops. It's our way of bringing you even more of the Open Pike Night that you love. But first, let me introduce my co-hosts. The man who said, "Dodge this," out loud to himself when La'an put her phaser to the Gorn's head, Jesse Bailey.
It's true, and now the Gorn are at my house. There's nothing I can do about it. Except steal my resolve and just push right through.
And the man who's been hanging on a cliff's edge for 23 months, the longest cliffhanger in Star Trek TV history, host of Green Shirt and Newbies Trek to the Next Generation, Cameron Harrison.
Tom Cruise did climb on by and keep me company for a little bit, but then he jumped on a biplane and took off. So a little help here, guys. A little help pulled me up now. I've seen it. I'm good.
And tonight we welcome the man who brought the cliffhanger in for a fantastic landing, to mix metaphors, a man whose talent shines brighter than the Enterprise between two suns. Please welcome returning guest Davy Perez to the Open Pike Night stage.
Hey, thanks for having me. Back, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for reaching out and having me come join you guys. This is awesome.
For a little deep cut, Open Pike Night deep cut, Davey, I never did get to personally say your horror movie list, top 5 horror movies from our Halloween episode last year.
Man. Yeah.
Chef's kiss there. Castle Freak, your mind to my mind.
I mean, Castle Freak, it's just always been there for me, and it's comfort horror, Stuart Gordon, like, look, you can't go wrong, you know what I mean?
I found that tape in a giant box of my dad's old VHS tapes from when he closed his video store, and I probably watched it. Actually, I probably watched it just the right age, which is a couple of years younger than you should watch it. But
yeah. No, I probably watch that at least once a year, just still to this day. And I have it on Blu-ray, DVD, and VHS.
Ooh,
just all. I can't get enough Castle Freak.
I love that.
That's awesome. So yeah, we're here tonight to discuss the writing of what everybody hopefully just watched before they're watching this, Hegemony Part 2. Can you give us a quick primer on what the writer's room process is like and what the credited writer does on a specific episode, just to bring our listeners back up to speed?
Sure. The writer's room process for Strange, because it's different on every show, was a lot about talking about the character journeys and, how are we telling this story, and then getting specifically into the beats that kind of make up the story. With this one, because it is a part 2, we had some of that conversation at the finale of last year, and we knew very, very 10,000 foot view kind of where it could or should go. And then, the writer on the page gets to be a little bit of the quarterback of those ideas, the caretaker of those, but obviously the room is all working together, and it's and then they go and they take those scenes and they put the words on the page and write the dialogue and have the scenes come to life, and so it's a very collaborative sport that we play in the writer's room, to mix all kinds of metaphors. But then also at a certain point, it does kind of boil down to, someone has to sit down and do the work,
So the room kind of comes up with an outline and all the major beats of the story, and then the credit.
Yeah, for the most part, and obviously everything funnels up to the showrunners, and Akiva and Henry. They sort of have the overall, like, what they want the episode to be doing for them. But the writer of note has a lot of sort of input as far as how it works for them, because they're the ones that have to do those scenes, and so it's a lot of shepherding the story and getting those cards up, and then taking that outline, and the writer writes the actual physical outline with.
Excellent.
So as you said, Henry told us on this podcast when he came on for the season 2 retrospective that he broke Trek tradition and did have the second half resolution generally in mind, like you said, the 1,000-foot view of how things could get wrapped up. What exactly did he bring to you guys, and did any of it change?
He knew that the device that Scotty built on the Sundiver I hope I'm saying that right. It's been so long since I've watched it. Stardiver. Someone's
I think Stardiver, yeah.
Stardiver.
Yep.
And you know what? I probably was getting that wrong in the room every day too. It's just once I get it, it's stuck in one way, and that's just it. That was key to ultimately resolving the situation. It was so long ago, but I like when we talked about how they were going to get out of the jam. I don't think we knew necessarily. I think that a lot of that came out of the first conversations we had at the beginning of season 3. Like, how are we doing this? And what does that device? How is that device going to be pivotal, and helping us? And then the other thing we just also knew is that Lon, by nature of Lon having such a deep relationship to the Gorn, I mean, that started in the finale. Her sort of reaction to things that she had insight to, so some part of her hands-on experience was going to be valuable, and that she's going to be in the Valley of the Beast and working through that, and kind of coming out a little bit of a different person on the other side. Most of those sort of beats were kind of talked about, but like as far as like how are they really going to make this happen, and what does the machine really do, and how is it useful? I mean, the machine was always a form of a cloaking device, but then then turning it into the star, I think that was something that we all kind of came up with, as we got into the nuts and bolts of it. And if I remember correctly, I think it was Akiva who was like, we need a bigger thing here. Like we had a somewhat of a resolution, and Nick, he's so great. He's been doing this forever, and he's just like, we need a bigger moment, a bigger, like, it's a plant your flag kind of like thing. And I think he was the one who's like, make the Enterprise shine like the sun. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. So I have to ask, like, if you can't explain specifically, that's okay. But like, did you go into this episode thinking we're not going to kill any of these characters? Or was that like something that you decided before the episode was written, or is it just happened naturally as you're going through the script, like, all right, well, it makes dramatic sense, let's do this? Because I was very worried.
No, we wanted you to be worried, and honestly, there was a version that survived for a while that you didn't know that Ortegas made it. There was a version that ended with like, Ortegas is dead, like question mark. Ultimately that didn't really service the bigger story, and she does have a journey in the season that doesn't matter whether we know that she survived or not. Like it seemed to be just kind of a thing we were doing because we could, versus like this is actually like holding its own water. So but yeah, I mean, Lon is a character that we don't know her fate in canon. Ortegas is a character that we don't know their fate in canon. So there was and also Captain Batel, so those were characters that if we put them in jeopardy, now you lean in and you're worried. And and there for like a hot second we talked about whether Batel was gonna, I think we knew she's so good and we wanted to tell her story and make it land. I don't think we were ever really gonna kill her, but we wanted to make you feel like, this could be it. And also for what that did to Pike, right? Having, a lot of the episode is she's on the back of his mind, but he has to do his day job, which is captaining a ship and saving his crew. And how do you do your day job, when you're worried about one life, but at the same time, you're responsible for 1,000 lives, And so that was a great story to kind of unpack and tell.
Now, was this the first episode written after audiences had started watching Strange New Worlds?
That's a good question.
Season 2 had already filmed
so completely,
or was finished filming by the
you
time
might be right.
dropped.
You might be right. This would be the first episode that had, I guess, been informed by fan reaction to some degree. And I think to that point, we ourselves knew the characters more than we certainly did in years prior. And I think particularly Mbenga, knowing the how the fans feel about him and his relationship to Lon and his relationship to Chapel and how he kind of fits, it made him a little easier to kind of write a bit, because I have to admit, he was kind of a mystery for a time for me personally. But obviously, Under the Cloak of War was when I got to really peel back that onion.
Yeah,
I was going to say Under the Cloak of War.
Yeah.
You revealed the most about him. Well, yeah, that fan reaction, I mean, pretty quick, I think it became clear to us fans anyway. I don't know about the writers' room that Erica was a fan favorite. So, whose idea was it to be like, oh, people like her? Let's put her through the ringer. Let's really make her hurt.
Honestly,
it was Akiva, wasn't it?
Probably, yeah. That makes sense. I believe that. Sure, we'll say that. I mean, that was like in the early conversations too when we were talking about the season as a where it could go, and we did know we wanted to see different shades for our characters, right? So, and you, I think by nature being reviewers, have probably seen a little bit beyond the episode we're talking about, and this is no secret because they've talked about it at panels and things like. We are taking the characters into places that are not typical for them to go. And with Erica, her being the jokey, I don't take things seriously, having a little bit of a darker point of view, having after this tragic thing that's happened to her in this episode, it is an interesting story. And then Lon goes into the belly of the beast, faces the demons of her past, saves the day, and comes out going like, maybe I don't need to be so afraid of that monster anymore. And what does that mean for me as a person? How can I fully look at the world in a not so scary way, And they kind of have reverse arcs in an interesting way. It's kind of doing the opposite thing for the character.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, most people have probably seen episode 2 by now because they release on the same day. So in case you haven't, we won't get specific.
Oh, yeah, right.
But
right.
People will see the beginning of those journeys you're talking about. Yeah.
And in that one, she's, having dance lessons and being a little bit a jokey in a different sort of lighthearted way. And that's, we get to see this other more fun side of Lon. And then Ortegas, we definitely get to see her still holding on to that having faced the monster and what is that doing to her,
So this, it's hard to explain, but like with the trailer and the teaser that came out for season 3, like we knew that Ortegas was going to be in more episodes, right? But you guys did such a good job. I mean, you used every piece of filmic language to tell me, no, Erica's going to die. That I had to keep reminding myself, like, no, I've seen the teaser. She's in more episodes. Like,
well, that's great. Then we did our jobs, and I have to give it up to Chris Fisher, who directed the episode too. And in the script, it says Ortegas dies. ... Or does she? Like, we really were like the whole point was to do that. So I thank you because that was what we wanted you to worry that one of your characters that you know and love will not make it.
Worked.
You know what I mean?
It worked, but. Is there ever, as a writer, a moment where like you finally see the teaser for something you've worked on for a long time and it kind of spoils things that you were hoping wouldn't get spoiled? Is there ever a moment of disappointment as a writer?
I've had that since my first job. You know what I mean? Like it's like the marketing people are great and it's their job to get people excited about the show. And so, I can't critique what they do just as much as they shouldn't critique what I do. Right. But yeah, like there are things that I think as a writer, we should have held that back, or that was meant to be a big twist or a big surprise. But they're like, no, that needs to be out up in front because it's it's going to get people to watch. And more often than not, they're right. It's like if you have this big secret and it's cool, but it stays secret, like no one's going to watch it. If you have this big cool thing, like tell people or hint at it or use it. So. But yeah, I mean, the person inside of me was like, man, I wish we could have like fooled people into believing that, and look, like last year or season 1, we schmuck baited that Lon's taking off into the wilds and leaving the ship. But then you watch the teaser and she's got the red shirt on and she's got a phaser and you're like, well, clearly she comes back at some point, So, but there's a lot of people that love that character and might go, well, I don't want to watch if my favorite character's gone. But then you're saying, no, your favorite character's here. Don't worry about it. And so, the answer is very political. Yes, it crushes my soul when they do that.
Yeah. Well, speaking on behalf of the schmucks, you guys still did a killer job. Like, I was like, oh, okay, so the rest of the season is some kind of alternate reality, and she's totally dead, and they've completely hoodwinked me here.
Yeah.
It's her life flashing before her eyes as she
Well,
bleeds out on that gore and control panel. Davey, we asked for more Tegas. You literally gave us less Tegas. You
Yeah,
took
we
away
gave-
body parts.
We gave you dead Tegas.
Yeah.
It was down 2 fingers.
Yeah.
Wow, that
Well,
shot.
to that point,
brutal.
though, to your point about people wanting more, it's one thing to do a fan like service, like just give her more, quippy
Right.
one-liners or give her more screen time, or to say, well, if we're gonna do a story, let's do a story. Let's actually give the right treatment to that character, and what would that story be? And I'm glad that, and as writers, that was the approach that we would take, and we did that.
Yeah, and I always point back to Hemmer from season 1 for people that are like, well, why did they kill him? And they shouldn't have killed him. And I'm like, it's good that you're mad that they killed him. That means it was well written and he's a good character. Like
that was the point. We knew that from the first couple weeks of the writers' room, and then we wrote him for you to exactly that, and for to be the mentor that then you mourn. That was I was fortunate enough to be able to write that one as well, and I do remember asking, like, are we sure about this? And then it was yes, because even the fact that I'm asking means that it's going to have an impact, and that was its design. So it was
If it doesn't scare you, is it worth doing?
Yeah, I mean, and that goes a little bit to my own process. I do write from very personal places, and there's a lot of what it means something to me on the page when I kind of craft those things. And if I'm not choking up or feeling something or really, like, then I just feel like, well, I did it and it's okay. But if I feel this tug and I feel like there's something that's there, then I feel like, okay, maybe other people will feel that too.
Well, with a season premiere, and especially with a cliffhanger, you got to wrap up a bunch of threads from the last season and also set up new arcs for the new season. Is it a challenge to work within those two boundaries? Is it more of a boundary to write that kind of thing, or do you find that it flowed pretty naturally writing this versus a standalone?
I think it probably flowed naturally a little bit, but just because maybe at the time I was inside it and I kind of understood what the characters were at, and and it was exciting to help kick off some of those things, but a lot of those things really kind of kicked off in the following episode too. So I think I was focused on telling a story of the week. Actually, I was focused on what is the to my old submarine movie, Love, like this has that sort of vibe, the ship in enemy waters, and really the Pike story, like really, like that was a very personal story for me to get inside of family obligation versus professional obligation. And so I was thinking of it in those terms, like for the characters for that episode. And then, yes, of course, obviously the story and the plotting that it connects to, before and after, like all those things are informed by all those conversations that the writers' room are having.
So kind of speaking of maybe fan favorites, maybe our reactions inform this, maybe not, but I definitely noticed that both Jenna and Sam Kirk get some real hero moments this episode. I mean, Jenna Mitchell, like, has the idea to basically save the day at one point, and that was very exciting. Was that intentional to kind of give them more to do, or was it just kind of the nature of having this group split up?
Yes, I think it was a little bit of both. I think the idea was for that scene in particular to remind the audience what kind of Captain Pike is. He is not necessarily like Kirk, where Kirk comes up with the idea himself, and is very like, forward in that, like, I have secrets that nobody else can know, maybe. And there is a little bit of that to Pike, that he does still have some cards, but he likes to open up the forum. He likes to get the information. And then his genius is then sort of translating that into how it's going to work, right? And so it was a little bit of like, let's see him being the head chef with his kitchen and seeing where all the ideas are coming from, and giving every one of that crew, including Jenna, like a moment to shine. And then with Sam Kirk, I just have a soft spot for Sam Kirk. I actually really like Kirk's brother, and I like Dan, and he's such a fun guy and it's such a fun character that I just wanted a little bit more of him, and he has that deadpan humor that he was so good in, that I remembered from season 1, that I was like, I just give him a little bit more of that. And and also like in me, I have all these inspirations, and a lot of them are that James Cameron era of action. It's like, while everyone's in danger, you still got to have a little bit of a funny moment, a little one-liner, a little bit of a lightening up, so that the tension can then ratchet back. And so there was that, like, they're all mad at him because it's not really his fault, but he's the one that they point to.
He definitely has some Bill Paxton energy in this episode.
He's Hicks. I mean, he's been Hicks for me.
But he has some great, like, nerding out. The xenobiologist comes out of him at some points, which I love. Like, I love having a xenobiologist on the team in Star Trek.
Well, absolutely. And that's just, we're all competency lovers, right? And the competency, like seeing anybody be competent and do their thing and get sort of nerdy fanned out about their thing, like that's a reflection of all of us. And so these heroes and these icons that we emulate, they have those same instincts and same moments, and so it's fun to write that.
Man, visible competence hits so much harder these days, Davey.
yeah, right,
you guys.
It's an idealized future, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of parallels between this and Best of Both Worlds. Was that intentional or just mostly happy accidents?
Again, probably subconsciously intentional. We talked a lot about Best of Both Worlds and how, that was such a great resolution to its, setup and what it did for them and their season. So I think we had so many conversations about that I think it did permeate into, the story and the script. But it wasn't like we sat there and they did this, we're going to do it too, or this is our version of that. I think it was just watching it, talking about it, internalizing it, and then letting it influence kind of what comes out,
And it wasn't the first time we've heard him say it. I'll be the first one to address a specific line here. It's not the first time we heard him say it, but Pike drops another "get it done" in this episode, just like he did in Discovery. So are we saying it's canon that Jellicoe in Chain of Command was a fan of Pike's leadership style? He just delivered it differently?
If that works for you, then yes, fine.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. I mean, these things take on a life of their own, and you never want to hinder them. So, there's a universe where that's true.
Yes.
Well, that also means then that Sam Kirk is canonically Canadian because he says process instead of process.
Maybe that's why they don't like each other. It's like, you were born in Iowa, I was born I'm from Manitoba,
That's funny. Well, speaking, I think I've got a transition here of characters learning stuff from other characters. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Scotty, loving him so far. I mean, you've taken what they did in Hegemony Part 1, and I'm just really digging what's happening, especially his and Pelia's relationship, because you can totally feel like how he's learning to become the Scotty we all know and love from TOS, but there's no, remember, Scotty, you always have to give him an extra 10 hours before you get it done or whatever. You don't hit it on the nose. You see those breadcrumbs forming, and I don't really have a question. I'm just taking a page from Jesse's book of complimenting you.
I will appreciate that. Thank you. And yeah, they were a very fun duo to write, and it is, to the point you were making about seeing actual mentorship and not, checking off that's where he learned how to do that, or that's where, and sure, there might be a little bit of that, as Easter egged out, but the true substance of it is he's a young person who hasn't found himself yet. And what were the influences that made him eventually become that Scotty that we have watched and loved, and that's the fun part, right? And that's what we did with all of our characters that were legacy characters. There was Uhura had that in season 1 and continues to have her growth on the ship, and Spock obviously has these storylines that it's that you think your legacy character, but here's this era where you don't know, and this is part of that formative year, or years.
Yeah, I loved, so like a thing that I've learned from Cam and John is the concept of show don't tell. And you guys have that scene where she's telling him, like, you didn't write any of this down. Like, we got to figure this out, man. Like, this is why we do that. But then when Pike shows up, she just says, how long until you need this ready? And then he tells her and she goes, all right, it'll be ready. And then Scotty has this look like, I thought you were freaking out just as much as I am. And it turns out she is. But that's not what Pike needs. Pike needs an answer.
Right, exactly. And it's our job isn't to tell the captain the problems. Our job is to tell the captain the solutions. Mm-hmm. And she's doing it with her behavior, right? You know, and that's what makes it so fun. And it's also that was those kinds of lessons, but in a fun sort of scene. You know, that was a little bit of the good time I was, you know, exploring the fun of having, you know, to write the two of them.
Man, again, you're knocking it out of the park. Like, you've got the funny moments with Pelia, and then like 2 seconds later she says, "Oh, Scotty," with almost tears. And I'm like, that's like Carol welling up here, man.
Yeah,
she is great, and that's I mean, she and the two of them, Martin, you know, Quinn and Carol came together. It's, you know, they have such good chemistry, and you'll see more of them together, obviously, throughout the season. And
Cam hasn't seen it, so I won't be specific. But her final scene in episode 5.
Oh my god!
Oh my god! Not final. Don't worry, Cameron. Just
no.
Her last scene of that episode is like, oh my god, Davey, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So,
I got that. I also I have to say there's Akiva in there. There's definitely him.
Okay.
You know, he has an ear for Pelia a little bit, and his yes, that's a fun. I know what you're talking about. And 100% what you're talking about. Look at Cameron all pissed off.
Wait.
Yes.
I can't wait.
He's gonna watch episode 5 tonight as soon as we're done.
Halfway through it, I was like, wow, what is going? Oh, that's what's going on. Okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, back to the real episode.
Well, speaking of this episode having everything, Davey, what do you think it will be remembered for in years come when people look back at Hegemony Part 2?
I think Hegemony Part 2 will be remembered for Pike breaking down and praying. I think it'll be remembered for the firefight on the Gorn ship. And then the Enterprise shining like the sun. I think those were I mean, and also it depends on your jam. If you like the soap opera elements and the love stories, like that scene where it's like lost in translation, where Spock and Chapel again just can't get on the right page, and they just saved a life, but their relationship is ending. That's some good stuff, you know. That's some emotional, you know, moments that are. I mean, it sounds like I'm doing a victory lap, you know, but I really do love the episode just from the acting, the directing, and you know, it's a really cool story, you know.
Well, if ever there were a place for you to run your victory lap, it's here. That's what Open Pike Night is for. So please feel free. But
it's already on screen. Yep.
Yeah.
But specifically, that line, "Make us shine like the sun," where the delivery is what makes or breaks that line. Do you generally include parenthetical direction on the page, or do you just wait until the day on set to make sure the read is right?
I mean, Anson's so good. Like with something like that, like if you give him the hero line, you know he knows how to deliver it. I mean, like on some other moments, sometimes you give a parenthetical to provide context, but like that's such an obvious moment for the story and for Pike. And I mean, and it's also, to your point, like it could come out so cheeseball, or it could come out too earnest, because it's meant to have a little element of that. And he's the swashbuckler. Like I know that he was gonna deliver that, and then he always like over delivers it in a way you're like, man, I thought we were gonna have to like give an alt because my line was cheesy, but damn, he crushed it. So yeah, like that line, I was great to see the dailies and of him doing that. I can't remember if I was on. I was there for most of it. I can't remember if I was there on that day, but I do remember watching the dailies and seeing him and go, "Oh yeah, that's awesome. That's going to be a good moment." You know.
Did you have an alt in mind, or?
No.
Oh.
So thank God. Yeah.
Well, speaking of thanking God, Davey, you're right. the scene that got me, that hooked me, was when Pike sits down and starts praying. And as a not religious person, literally welling up at someone praying is a big deal. And you nailed it. It was an amazing combination of great writing and great acting. So just like, yeah, when you were there on set watching Anson deliver those lines, like how many goosebumps?
I mean, chills, and spoiler, like, my favorite line is in that scene. Anson actually, after the table read, came up to me and we had a really cool conversation about that scene in particular, where he was really like, I see what you're doing here. And he wanted to make sure that he was bringing an organic self to it, because I think on the page, to your point about parentheticals and descriptors, there was like, he breaks down emotionally and he cries here. And that's to give an indication of the type of scene it's supposed to be. And Anson was, like, hey, how much of this is this, like, this is when you want me to do it, because I don't know if I can do it that way. And I was like, no, like, be in the moment, feel these things, say these words. And we maybe tweaked a couple of things to be more how he might say them. But like, I want organic. I want, Veritas. I don't want like my words are sacrosanct and you have to do it this way. And so, yeah. And then he like, I actually got chills because I was watching it and I was like, I think he's kind of doing exactly how I was command. Like, it wasn't like I gave him the freedom and then he kind of delivered what we asked of him, So it was like, we kind of just, I think it's when you trust your partners and you try to trust the material and you trust the performer and you trust the director and it just kind of comes to life that way,
Yeah, I mean, you used the word organic, and that was the one that was in my head. But I mean, the whole scene feels so organic and real. And,
yes, it does.
And you get exactly what's happening. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of tearing up right now just remembering it and hearing you talk about it. So I'm glad to know that it came together that way.
And as far as like something emerging from the character and from the situation, like whose idea was let's hit it for the scene when the Enterprise rams into the Gorn ship?
Oh yeah, I love a good pun.
So good too.
I love a good pun. I was like that. If they're ramming the ship, like he's got to say the line. I mean, just come on, let's hit it. Literally, let's hit it.
So well done.
I rarely do I credit horror, but that was my pun, that one. Yeah.
Well, it felt like, they needed, 80s action one-liners mixed with some horror action in this. Like, of course they went to Davy. Like, that's what Davy does, right? Like...
I'll take that. That's a big compliment.
Well, yes, apropos of nothing, what is your relationship with fire in the sky, Davy? Because everyone of a certain age has a relationship with fire in the sky.
Oh my God, I love it. That one and Dominion or Communion. Sorry, Communion.
Yeah.
Gave me nightmares. Right, Communion gave me nightmares. That alien that kind of pops his in. But Fire in the Sky, and a good catch, because like a lot of the goo and a lot of the like, abduction. It's an abduction story, right? And that's the figuring out where we are, who took us, and how we're gonna get it back, and then. The PTSD involved. I mean, fire. Yes, my relationship with the Fire in the Sky is, long and storied and not so complicated.
Well, this was very cathartic because, yes, as soon as Lon woke up, I was like, Fire in the Sky, but this time she's going to be able to fight back. And she did. So, yes, so much fun.
Real Fire in the Sky 2, The Revenge.
This definitely has to be one of the goriest part 2s in Star Trek history. Like, man, I can't wait to talk about like all the other parts of the episode for our call-in show, but visuals in this episode are
I mean the credit to Akiva for really like saying let's push it, let's see that, let's see those decomposed things and the missing fingers and the and I was like, cool, I'm the gore guy, so let's do this. How much? Tell me when it's too much, not too much. Great.
Wait, was there a draft where Ortegas got to speak a little more realistically instead of saying "Holy crap, my frickin' fingers"? Did you write the R-rated draft at one point just to have it?
Maybe for myself, but I don't think I ever turned it in. I mean, it was always I'm a frickin' frack guy, right? Even though it's streaming and we could, there's something to me that I just TV and the audience. I'm like, I'll throw in when it's earned, but like I also for her, she just seems like that's
she can sell it for sure.
She sells it, yeah.
And she's a war vet. Like This is not the the biggest
True.
can of worms she's ever been. in
Yeah, no, but
necessarily,
it's like,
so.
I never thought my hand was gonna get blown off. Shit,
Yeah.
See, there it is.
Just the badge like bleeping every time it hears somebody about to swear.
Right.
The whole missing part of the.
Or like the universal translator is just changing it.
Starfleet's instituted their ethics code or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Starfleet Code of Conduct.
Well, I guess that kind of only leaves one question left. After introducing Gorn ship poop into Star Trek canon, what's really left on your writer's bucket list? Like, what else? Where is there to go?
I mean, I think you hit the top, right? You hit the pinnacle, and there's just now it's just about maybe octopus monsters or something. I don't know.
Star Trek meets Lovecraft. I'm waiting for that. I want a whole
Oh, man.
series.
I mean, watch episode 5.
I was just gonna say that.
You really need to watch episode 5. Cam.
Yeah. This is gonna be your episode, Cam.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. No, poop. The poop was great. The poop was great.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun, and there's all that's this Jurassic Park, right? There's a little bit of that in there, and again, it's Sam Kirk who gets to be the one who's sort of the Hicks who pulls off that little fun beat, and it's and then you end with Lon interaction moment, so it's all good. It's
Yeah.
a good, and if you're doing your job correctly, like the audience is on board and they're rooting for those heroes, right?
Absolutely. So you hinted at it before. What is your favorite line from this episode you wrote?
So my favorite line is, "Okay, Dad, you win."
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, is that something that you came up with while writing that scene? Like, oh, this is something that comes from his family of origin for him, or is that just something you've known about Pike? Like, I know he talked about that in Discovery a lot.
I mean, a little bit of that, and then this also ties into, and we're gonna get a little peek behind the curtain on this one. So I knew his background, and I knew he talked about his dad having, the religious studies sort of thing, and that was a conflict that he had with his dad as far as like, where he sees himself in the universe versus how his dad sees the universe, and in this moment where he's at his weakest and feeling the need for some higher power, like my dad passed away, when I was writing this episode, so there was a lot of me going through some stuff. And I think when we were shooting the episode was when I went to my dad's funeral. So it was like, because of my dad had gotten cancer during the strike. And so I had known that, that he was going to pass. And and so there was a little bit of that, not to bring the whole podcast down with that sort of vibe, but it was a little bit of, and that's why in that one little line I could just sort of wink at my dad a little bit and wink at our relationship, but also the layer that Pike has that potential relationship with his dad and what it means to him. So it was personal and cathartic for that reason. I think it's actually the first time I kind of talked about it with anyone, and I'm glad that line survived, and I'm glad that the praying survived, and that he nailed it so well, because it was that level of a personal scene for me.
I mean, maybe that's why it had such an impact on all of us, because it really did.
Well, then again, I'm doing and engaging the process in the right way, because if we're not pulling from those things, then where are we pulling from,
Yeah, and like you were saying, Ance's performance, like his voice cracks at exactly the right time, and it's like you almost miss him saying, "Okay, Dad," but then you're like, "What's going on?" And then Cameron and I. So we can't talk about this show with anyone other than the three of us, right? Because there's embargoes and stuff.
Yeah.
So we immediately started a private text chat where we're like, okay, but I have to talk about this. Like,
yeah.
Please, can we talk about this right now? And like the immediate reaction of, you put prayer in my Star Trek, and I love it. It's like,
oh, cool,
mind blowing, man. Like this
well,
is.
Thank you. Well,
it's so well done.
That was also why I was like, is this gonna, are we And it, Star Trek has had many times where it's played with faith and God,
Yeah.
and where's that place in this sort of utopian? It seems to me it's always been an individual choice that everyone in that universe gets to make. In that,
Yeah.
I think it's good to have those conversations about where is our place in this bigger universe, and when also in particular, like, these are heroes that are going through a lot, and how are they coping with those things? And this particular individual, this captain, we know has was raised in a faith family, and how did that inform him at his lowest point? And so it works for him as the character. It's not like Spock saying the Our Father, it's Pike
Right.
saying the Our Father. And I honestly, I can't even remember if it's funny because I think in one of the drafts I did start the Our Father, but then I'd said no, I don't want to dictate the prayer. I just think I said Pike prays, and I want to say Anson just kind of picked up on that. And you don't even hear all of it, but you just hear like what some people would recognize as, hey, that's if you have that upbringing,
Prayer.
know that one. That's the Lord's Prayer. Yeah, I want to say that was a thing where it was like parallel thinking for some. So there was something very cool and organic how that came together, and it was like, again, like taking the sci-fi standpoint of like, I'm not telling you that this is what you all have to feel and believe, and that this is the one way, and that but I am telling you that we're humans and we don't know everything, and that for this character that you love in his weakest time, he needs a higher power, and that's what he's reaching out to.
Yeah. I have said this before, and I will absolutely say it again, but like, if you are watching or listening to this wondering how this show gets made, there is absolutely some of it that is just magic. Like, you have all these people working very hard at being really good at their jobs, but these tiny little moments just come not out of nowhere, but like a magical tapestry from all these different threads. And like, man, just keep waving that wand, Davey. Like,
no,
wow.
I can't take credit. I think it's you put together a group of individuals that are, all have the same goal in mind, which is to tell elevated, interesting stories and tell them at a certain level, and you collaborate and you trust the team that you put together, and then that allows the magic to happen, right? That allows, I don't, like, any one person really can't, stake a claim on all of that. So
Right.
I would be remiss in sort of say, yes, I have a magic one. I don't. I was a piece of a big, wonderful thing and got to be small parts of it,
Yeah. But as the strikes illustrate, without writers, you don't have a show.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's all about the writers. No.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the series is all about. So
Yeah,
we
right.
can say that here.
That's why everyone shows up, is the writers. Now they want their characters they know and love, and they want to see Ethan do the Spock hands.
Yeah.
But who tells Ethan when to do the Spock hands?
Right.
Well, and writers wise, sure seems like there was another writer called out in this episode. Did you come up with Wolkite, or who came up with Wolkite?
Oh no, that was me. I love slipping
Hey.
those in. Yeah. They got back to me. For someone, where did they? It might be in the finale. Yeah, they got me back, and it's funny because I co-wrote the finale, but it was Dana, and Dana. There's a name, and I was like, it's very obvious, and she's like, sorry, it's happening. She's like, it's like, you've done it to everyone else, and I'm like, all right, fine. You might blink and miss it, but if you catch it, it is. If you think that, hey, was that a reference to Davey? It is.
Awesome.
I will
sweet.
catch it.
I'll be looking forward to that. I was telling the guys, so on the screeners, I went to turn on the captions because I wanted to double check the spelling for Wolkite.
Yeah.
Our captions are in Japanese. That's
the
the only option we
have
have.
for the screeners.
So it's like,
No,
all right,
it's
well, that doesn't help.
Wolkite. That is an element named after Bill Wolkoff.
That's
You
so
heard it here.
cool.
Breaking
Fantastic.
news.
Well, we heard a lot, and we really appreciate your time and for joining us on our first episode of Strange New Words. What can people look forward to? What do you got coming up next that you can talk about?
I'm just working on original pilots. I have a show that's in contention at Amazon. It's hard to talk about it because it's not picked up, but it's going very well, and we are in the process of seeing some concept designs, so that's a good sign. But in this industry, they might see the concept designs and not want to spend the money on it. So I'm excited about it. I think it's really fun. I think it's really good. I think it's something that, people would like, but I'm not in charge of whether or not anyone ever gets to see it. I can just do my part of that. And then I'm also co-writing another pilot, which, I can not talk so much about also. And that's also a very fun thing. And, hopefully very shortly, one of those two things will move forward and I can say publicly what's going on with them,
Well, I know I'd be looking forward to watching him, just as I'm looking forward to watching the rest of your episodes this season and all the episodes, which hopefully we'll have more writers on to tell you all about, and hopefully have you back as well.
Thank you. I'm always glad to be on, and I appreciate you guys, singing praises of the show and getting the word out there. So this has been fun for me as well.
Thank you very much, Dave.